Welcome back to UKSM 17. We're about to go live with a Sonic Adventure 2 Battle Hero Story New Game Mode speedrun by Drakodan. Before I hand over to him to explain who he is, what the run's all about, I just want to say we are trying to raise money for Médecins Sans Frontières. So please, if you can donate, do. So, Drakodan, explain who you are, explain who the run is. Who the run is, yeah. Who it is.
Well, yes, as mentioned, I am Drakodan or Drakodan. They're interchangeable, honestly. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, so this is Sonic Adventure 2. You may have seen me yesterday with Undertale. If not, this will be the first run you're seeing from me. This is my main speed game, I consider this, so I'll be able to explain this game in a lot of depth as well. And as far as who the run is 3 different people who we'll be seeing throughout the game.
Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails.
Yep, Sonic, Knuckles and Tails, each with their own distinct playstyles. So this run is interesting since it's like learning to do 3 different speedruns at once. You'll see how that progresses as we go through. I'd say this is a pretty difficult game to learn and get good at, but it's a very entertaining game. So whenever you guys are ready, I am ready to just go.
Okay, if you want to give us a countdown, or do you want us to give you a countdown?
I'll count down, yeah, sure.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Okay, so 3, 2, 1, go. Thank you guys very much. So, as mentioned before, this game uses 3 different playstyles. Throughout different stages in this game, we'll be using Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles in different stages, and they all play very differently. Sonic's stages are just speed stages, or the game calls them action stages. Tails has mech stages, which are focused on shooting, and Knuckles has hunting stages, which are very RNG centric, and we'll just see how they play as we get to them. Sonic's first stage is City Escape, and in a few seconds I'll actually be getting up to the first major skip of the game, which I will only have 1 attempt at, since it is borderline random whether I get it or not. So I'm going to be reaching it shortly, and I will just give 1 attempt at it. Hopefully, we'll just have to see. That's not a good position, but I didn't get it. I didn't even get the ramp jump. So what I'm trying to do there is jump off that ramp with as much speed as possible. Please, jeez. This is a little bit of a shaky start, since I prefer not to play through City Escape. I prefer to just skip it, but the rest of the stage should be fine. So by jumping off the ramp with as much speed as possible, we can hopefully hit the next set of speed pads, which are right next to the wall, whilst we are out of bounds for 3 frames, and if that's done in a certain way, it will actually zip us to the right and zip us through most of the stage. The section of the stage that we would come out of is actually coming up after this section. There is just 1 jump that I need to really hope that I land here. Ooh, that was close. So if I'd hit the skip, I would be coming out at this spot on this staircase, but we're just going to play through the stage normally instead. And the only remaining part of the stage after this is the truck section, in which we just need to try to chain spin dashes down these hills. Movement as Sonic is, as long as we're moving downhill like this, you want to be doing what I'm doing, which is just letting a spin dash go. And if you are either going uphill or along a straight, you want to unroll and keep chaining your spin dashes. I also want to unroll from each spin dash as I go over each of these hill crests, since if I maintain the ball form, there's a good chance that the game could just auto-unroll me. 2:10 is quite a hairy time for City Escape actually, but the other stages should be better once I'm just better into the flow of the run. So after City Escape we get straight into the first boss of the game, which is Bigfoot. And it's a fairly simple boss fight, but there's still some things that can go wrong, particularly because we'll be probably taking the fight ringless. So it's very possible to die if something goes wrong, but hopefully shouldn't have any issues. The basic gist of this fight is to use the boxes that are around the corners of the arena. I'm just going to go to the box on the front left of the arena and keep jumping into his cockpit every time he becomes vulnerable, for hopefully 4 quick hits, which should be a 21 or 22 second fight. I am struggling to even find where I am. I prefer not to homing attack him as early as possible, since as the machine gun is firing, the homing attack forces you to descend, so if you homing attack early, it's possible to just hit the machine gun fire and die if you don't have any rings. So it's overwhelmingly safer to just jump into him and let him come to you. So this is Knuckles' stages, as I mentioned before. The objective of these stages is to find 3 pieces of the Master Emerald in each stage, and they are randomly generated. I'm using hints as I get through the stage. Like, there are hint monitors laid out, and I'm going to get one hint monitor each for each piece, and that'll tell me where the piece is. And as far as learning how to play these stages go, it's pretty much just memorizing all of these hint locations, and there are about 100 per stage to memorize, so it is quite difficult to learn how to effectively play these stages quickly. That was not a particularly good set of pieces, and this piece is awkward to get. 35 is on the worst end of the times you can get in the stage, just because the RNG was pretty poor there. Having the first piece near the bottom was okay, but then having the next two pieces on opposite ends of the top area is not particularly favourable. Times can go as low as 10 seconds in that stage if you get amazing pieces. You can also get what we call free pieces in the knuckle stages, where you don't necessarily have to follow the radar. If you can see pieces just floating around the stage, you can grab them without needing the radar, and those can be like piece 2 or 3, so you can get them out of order. So this is technically a boss fight. I say technically because it's honestly very trivial. Hard fight. 12 seconds is pretty standard for the Eggman 1 fight, and this introduces how Tails plays. So Tails actually gets a boss fight before he gets a stage. And the first Tails stage is Prison Lane, and this is a very good introduction to how Tails really plays throughout the game. So Tails is in this mech, and to advance through the stage we need to destroy enemies that are guarding a lot of locked doors. Tails' movement is probably the hardest out of all the basic character movement in the game. Like, I would say Tails is probably harder than Sonic and Knuckles perhaps put together to learn how to play effectively. The big problem with Tails is that you are only fast with ground speed, and you will struggle to maintain that ground speed if you turn. Like, Tails really doesn't like cornering, so what you'll commonly see me do is that if I need to, I'm surprised I got that, if I need to turn a corner sharply, then I'm going to actually jump and then turn in midair, since I won't really lose my speed if I'm in midair. So just get behind this elevator and just have a little bit of downtime. So to try and open gates early, there are some enemies that I can actually target early, such as I just got an enemy through the wall there. That'll make one of the other gates open earlier. And then we just need to continue destroying all the enemies that guard all the gates. You can see how difficult it can be to really maintain max speed as Tails, because Tails' hitbox is also a little awkwardly shaped. Like, the fins on either side of the legs, they do contribute to the hitbox of the mech a little, and rubbing against walls can cause you to lose a lot of momentum and speed. So there's an early lock-on I can get here. Didn't get it. I'm trying to get that enemy there, but it's a little weird whether you get it or not. Get 4 enemies through the wall there to open this gate. That enemy at the top there is important as it unlocks the second gate here, but I missed the elevator skip here. So I'm just going to have to wait for that. A lot of this game is like very small skips and optimizations that save a very small amount of time each, but there are so many tricks that a lot of time save tends to add up. Like 145 there is, for me, a pretty bad time. Even though like the stage itself largely went well, but there were a couple of mistakes here and there that added up, and they can quickly add up to losing multiple seconds. I would say a good Prison Lane for me is like 138, going down to 137 if I'm playing really well. If you're going for world record, then you would prefer to be getting, with additional strats, 134s or 133s. So Sonic's second stage is Metal Harbor, and we're going to be getting the first upgrade of the game in this stage. As we go through the game, the characters get upgrades to add to their abilities. Sonic's first upgrade is just over here, and it is the light shoes, which will... oh, nice. So the light shoes are over here, and this will allow us to travel over trails of rings very quickly, such as this. And this is only used in a couple of spots in the run. It's actually used the most in this stage. Nice jet. Ah, wow. That's uncommon for that to happen. That jet hitting you really messes up your sense of perspective there. And I tried to even bail out with a backup there, but being hard against the wall doesn't let you hit the rocket platforms directly underneath you. I can actually use the New Game Plus path now, though, since I now have the light shoes. So this is more akin to a New Game Plus style Metal Harbor. So the IL time should actually, hopefully, be pretty decent here. Alright, the jet's a little more friendly now, and the checkpoint was right there, so that was actually the worst spot I could have died. A thing that's probably difficult to notice here is that I'm using a trick called storage to get under the somersault barriers. Probably, if you're perceptive, it looks like I'm just running under the barriers, and I am actually doing that. I'm not in a shortened form while I do that, because all of the actions in this game are on the B button, like somersault, spin dash, light dash, they're all on the B button. So the game has to find ways to differentiate what action you're using. And you spin dash in this game by holding the B button. There's a short delay before the spin dash comes out. But in that time that you're holding the B button before the spin dash actually comes out, the game considers you to be somersaulting. So you have the properties of somersaulting, which includes the ability to damage enemies and have a shorter hitbox. So even though Sonic looks like he's in his running animation, his hitbox is physically shorter. And this will also allow us to damage enemies. So, hey, I mean, it's not a true 121, but if this was a run, a 121 would be a really good Metal Harbor, due to being able to take the shorter New Game Plus path, since I had the light dash from the start of the stage there. So the other usage of storage that I mentioned is the ability to damage enemies, and that's what we're going to see in this upcoming boss fight against Shadow. I'm going to go for an IL strat, which I'm the only runner who actively goes for this in runs. If I land this correctly, it saves 1/4 of a second. If I miss it, it can lose up to a few seconds. But I think it's worth going for since I'm relatively accurate at it. It is not trivial to land. I need to time my input when I'm able to gain control of Sonic to start spin dashing at the right time. And then I need to aim at Shadow properly, unroll from the spin dash, and then use storage while I'm accelerating towards him. So I'm going to focus on this. Got it? Didn't even get a sub 11 fight though, garbage. I saved, hang on, I can count this up. I think I saved 9 frames over a normal fight there. Because we can tell exactly the pace of a stage or how many frames have been saved over a quote-unquote standard strat by looking at the in-game timer. If you understand how the in-game timer ticks up, you know basically how many frames you're saving between 2 different time values. And in 11.14, the normal time for that fight is 11.29 or 11.27 with total optimization, just using the non-IL strat. And I think I saved either 8 or 9 frames over it. But I'd ideally like to get a sub 11 fight, and for reference, the TAS gets 10.94 on that fight. I've gotten 10.95 a lot of times, but I've never matched the TAS. I'd like to match the TAS. So this is Sonic's next stage, Green Forest. There's a lot of small hills in this stage which really like to try and throw you off. So even though I'm going to be spin dashing a lot, I'm going to hope to not get thrown all over the place, which can seemingly be semi-random sometimes, but I'm going to try and just finagle my way over hills such as that. Yep. Small loop skip here. Which, okay, that's an effect. Yep. That's actually a little dangerous. There is a major skip coming up here, which I'm, against my better judgment, I'm going to give 1 attempt at. I make no promises about hitting this though, and it's relatively safe to go for just to try and show off since there's a checkpoint right before the skip. That's not going to work, I'm going to need to bail out. So what I was trying to do there was hit what we call a loop speed trigger. As you go around loops in this game, there are periodic triggers that give you a burst of speed. And if I fly off the side of that loop at a specific point and homing attack into the loop speed trigger whilst I have skewed gravity, it will fling me sideways towards the tree, and then if I hit the tree with enough speed, I can actually just run straight up it. But it's extremely precise, and it's very easy to mess up. So with that setup, there was no way that I was going to hit that, and I just needed to bail out. If I'd gone for that, I would have died. So sadly, was not able to show that off, but still just getting through Green Forest normally. Going to try for a small optimization here. And I completely fluffed it. I discovered that optimization this morning, and I probably shouldn't have tried that there without practicing it, but it's just a tiny thing. The best part of that is, what was the meme before? Saves like 0.1 seconds? It probably does save about that much. I haven't timed it out, but the trick that I was trying to go for there, spin dashing on this straight here, it probably does save in the region of 0.1 seconds, maybe 0.2 if landed correctly.
Well, 0.1 seconds is the ultimate amount of seconds to save.
Exactly. Yeah. Either way though, that's Green Forest done, and we're going to be moving on to Knuckles' second stage here, Pumpkin Hill. Pumpkin Hill is very odd. It's the stage where we're going to get Knuckles' first upgrade, the Shovel Claws, which allows us to dig underground, and the pieces that we can get in this stage are a little odd. There are a lot of pieces that are exposed throughout the stage, but we actually can't get a lot of them in a run. my third piece is always going to be a piece that I need to dig for. That's the game's way of making sure that you've picked up the shovel claws, that you can't complete the stage without picking up the shovel claws, since you'll always get a piece that you need to dig for. So Three-Faced Ghost is piece 1. This is a really poor first piece, actually. It's over here, and it's far away from everything else. Sleep of the Dead, piece 2, is at Church Mountain. Yeah. So this is going to be at the top of the mountain, which we'll take a rocket for. That's the further one, if the radar was green there. Please. And third piece is Suffering from a Stuffed Nose. This is over at Pumpkin Mountain. So we get this rocket, and it's over at the Pumpkin Mountain on the right side here. Man, RNG is not being friendly to me in this run. That's 2 poor RNG stages back to back just because of the way the pieces have been laid out. Hopefully the quote-unquote more important RNG stages, such as Aquatic Mine and Death Chamber, coming later in the run, they will be a little more friendly. There is arguably more opportunity for those stages to give free pieces, so we'll see. We'll just hope that the game is storing all the good RNG for later. The time variance in those 2 stages is quite severe between getting a good stage and getting a bad stage. So Tails' next stage is Mission Street, and from here on out, Tails' stages, with the exception of Hidden Base, are largely going to be cycle-based. The objective of this stage is that to try and go fast, I'm going to be aiming to get a difficult cycle, which starts after I get the booster, just here. And I'm going to go for a very difficult hover jump to try and land on this weight coming up here. This is a 5-frame window to mash this without pause hovering. I just missed it. So hover jumping is a trick used as Tails, where now that I have the booster, I can do a hover like this. But if I initiate the hover with an A press as I'm still rising in my original jump, I get additional momentum and go even higher. It's not too much, but it's enough to break the way that some Tails stages are played. It's going to be very prominent in Hidden Base. But the effect of the hover jump is greater the closer you do it to the original jump. A lot of players prefer to actually pause buffer that by like using an A input and then pausing, and then unpausing and rapidly pressing A again to try and get them very close together. I don't personally like pause buffering hover jumps, since I'm able to mash most of them effectively, but there are some hover jumps in the game with a very short frame window that are difficult to get without pause buffering. So stopping or going as slow as I have been in this stage, it doesn't actually matter, since after missing the weight jump, I'm on just what we call first cycle pace. I'm trying to basically meet this cycle coming down here. So you can see that even with a couple of mistakes, I've got a long time to wait. Ideally, I would have liked to have gotten that a cycle early, which we would call 0 cycle. And we call it that just because for the longest time we had what we thought was the first cycle, and then the task demonstrated getting an earlier cycle, so rather than rename everything, we just thought, okay, that's, since we're already on 1 cycle, we get it 1 earlier, so that's 0 cycle. And if you're going for ILs, then you can even start getting negative cycles. It's a little silly. So a little bit of precise movement to try and get through this corridor. Getting through those boxes is actually not trivial. It looked like I was just running against the wall. The position and angle to get through those without being slowed down at all is actually very precise. And because the turning with Tails can be so precise as well to not lose momentum, it's actually fairly difficult to move through that corridor well as Tails. The last few corners of the stage as well, I mentioned about not being able to corner effectively without losing speed. The only reason that I was able to take those corners without jumping at all is because I'm actually using very slight angle changes and then letting the camera do all the work. Like, learning to move as Tails is sometimes as much about learning to move with the camera as anything else. So this is Aquatic Mine, and in the intro cutscene it's possible to see a few free pieces, so I'm going to be keeping a lookout. Can't see anything, but there's still a few that I could get up top. I've got no radar, so I'm going to check this hint. I am resetting on that. That's the worst first piece I can get. That's not worth running with. That's a free piece, so I'm going to run with this. So I'm first going to go up for water level 3 and check my hint, and then get the free piece. Please. Thank you. On the steel ghost beam is over in the ghost room, as we call it. Please. Collision in this game is awkward to work with. Well, I'll take that. This is uncommon. This would normally be the worst piece that I can get, but because I've already had a free piece, I can just clip out for it. And I wouldn't be able to do this normally, because once I clip into this area, I can't get back out. But since I've already had my third piece, I can just get this piece and not worry about getting back out. That's really situational, and that you don't get to show that off very often. Clipping for minecart dumping area without being able to get back out of the area. Normally, if I didn't have a free piece, what I'd need to do is set the water level to a higher state, and then I can clip out for the piece, but then I'd actually need to still get out of that room, and when the water level is higher, I'm actually able to swim out the room. If the water level's not higher, then you need to do a really weird and precise clip to get back out of the room, which I'm not very good at, so even though I got the worst piece in the stage, I got it in the best possible scenario, which is a little weird. So this stage is unique in the run, in that it's the only driving stage. Tails has Route 101, and there's not much to talk about in this stage other than on this first hill, I'm going to start drifting like this, and I'm going to maintain this drift for the entire stage. Since whilst you're drifting, you actually have a higher speed limit. You have the normal speed limit and you have the boost speed limit, and whilst I'm drifting, I'm able to maintain the boost speed limit through most of the stage, except for when I go uphill or hit an obstacle, for which spots we have boosts collected through rings ready. But there's not too much to talk about in this stage, so if there are any donations that have come in, now is a great time to do them. We have got like 2 spare minutes.
No new donations at the moment.
Damn it. That feel went. So I need to use my first boost here anyway. And we should hopefully be getting the next boost in a convenient spot. This balloon should give me the next boost. Yep. But I should need it for a little bit. As far as time variance goes in this stage, it's very small. As long as you don't make a catastrophic mistake like dying, which, yes, is possible to do in this stage by actually physically coming off the stage and falling, the time variance isn't very large. Probably the best time that you're going to get in a run is 2:13, and assuming that you're using the correct route and that your strats are okay, the worst time that you're going to get is something like a 2:17. Like, assuming that you don't spin out or do something massively wrong. So I deliberately bonk this wall so that I'll get around that hairpin properly without hitting the next wall at too sharp an angle, causing me to spin out. Same there, you can actually hit that wall at a fairly sharp angle and not spin out on it. I do need to get my next boost here, and I hope that I've got enough rings for it. The next set of rings here should give me my next boost. Ah, no. I've missed a couple too many rings there, so that loses a second or two to not get a boost there. I'm going to get it right here. Yeah, I was literally 1 ring away. Nice. So this is probably going to be, I want to say, a 2:17, probably a high 2:17. If you watch the in-game timer in the top left, it's actually not going to correlate to the time that I get. So that's going to be a low 2:17, even though it looked like it was going to be a high 2:17. Because for some reason, the time is just misaligned. Like on the results screen here, it's going to be like 2:17.1. Oh, 05, okay. Yeah, we don't fully understand why that happens, but it does. And that's the time that we go off for determining what time you actually got in the stage. Because this game is timed by in-game time. We used to use RTA, but now that we have a functional auto-splitter and a script that actually adds up your in-game time levels on PC version, we just go off in-game time since it's very easy to calculate, and it removes things like load time differences between players and between versions. So this is the aforementioned hidden base stage for Tails, which is not cycle based, but it is very execution heavy. And this is where we're going to see hover jumps breaking a lot of the stage. Already we're half out of bounds, since we're not meant to get up here, and now we are fully out of bounds. A theme that you're going to see in Tails' stages a lot, especially in this stage, is that the developers took a lot of shortcuts for making the walls and stages in this game. The general theme is, if the player was not intended to be able to reach a wall or a texture, then the developers save time by simply not making them solid. So since the hover jump allows us to get higher than we are normally able to, it allows us to reach a lot of areas that we're not supposed to be able to get to, and a lot of those areas have walls that are just not solid and that we can just go straight through. So the next part of the stage is quote-unquote normal gameplay, albeit we're still using hover jumps to try and go faster than normal. So a small skip that's coming up here is what we just call maze skip. I'm going to try and land this. Oh, nah, I just didn't have enough momentum. You can see what I was going for there, but because of the way that I turned on the surface, I lost a little too much momentum. That's what I mean about needing to do all of your angle changes in mid-air as Tails, or you start rapidly losing momentum. But this is going to be the main out-of-bounds trick in Hidden Base here. So we first get up here, and then we can get on top of here and just go straight out and straight through the walls. A lot of the solid, even when an object is solid, the other side of that wall is solid. So a lot of the textures in this game have the weird property of only one side is solid. You've probably seen it earlier in the run as well, where I've been doing loop skips as Sonic, where the bottom side of the loop is not actually solid. So you can pass through one side, but the other side won't let you pass through. Which, for many parts of the run, it's thankfully the convenient side that you can get through. So, coming up right now is easily the most difficult stage in the run as far as execution goes. Pyramid Cave is Sonic's stage where he gets the bounce bracelet, which is his broken upgrade of the game, and every single part of this stage is very technical, so I am largely just going to be focusing on trying to get a good stage here. Yeah, I'm going to first explain the bounce bracelet. Once I get it, it's going to enable me to do a trick called the super bounce, which is if you spin dash towards a wall and then bounce before you hit the wall, the game immediately converts all your horizontal momentum into vertical momentum. So you were going quickly forwards and then you're suddenly going quickly upwards. And as soon as we get the bounce bracelet, you'll see exactly what that does. And it's also used here for this door skip. Again, walls are not solid if you weren't meant to get to them. This door skip is extremely precise. Okay. Alright, that was a little odd. I caught against the door a little bit there, but still got through, so second try, I'll take it. I really didn't set up the first attempt with nearly enough respect, so I'm not surprised that I didn't go through first time. The pixel window for that is a lot tighter than it looks, honestly. I see a lot of people trying to learn this game and trying to initiate that skip, and they don't have nearly a precise enough position. Oh yeah, gravity exploits. We can use the bounce to use skewed gravity and fall in the wrong direction as well. That is a lot more precise than it looks, and it's very, very easy to die there. Okay, we'll just accept. Nice, I can get that for free, since I made a mistake. One more super bounce and one more gravity bounce. Okay, I'll bail out of that. Please don't die on the gravity bounce here. Alright, we should be good. Okay. That was a little hairier than it should have been, but 146 is not a particularly good hit Pyramid Cave, but it was deathless and there were no major mistakes, so I'll take it. So, if you're going for a good time in this game, assuming that you've got all the really difficult tricks and favourable RNG to this point, 90% of your runs are going to die here to Death Chamber. This is Knuckles' most volatile RNG stage, and we're just going to see what happens. First of all, I checked for a couple of free pieces, which I didn't get at the start, and I need to now get the hammer gloves so I can break metal boxes. So the first piece that I've got is long vertical white line. This is in the blue room. This stage is divided between red, green, and blue areas. Since I've got a blue piece, I'm hopefully going to be able to actually use a death abuse here. Since the way the game generates pieces is that piece 1 is totally random, piece 2 is always going to be at least moderately far away from piece 1, and then for piece 3 the game does a lot of complex math to determine where it could be based on where the first 2 have been. But the practical result of that is that the blue room is far away from the red room, so if I die a couple of times I should hopefully actually get a piece that's in the red room. There we go, I'll take it. Roasted keys. That is one of the free pieces I was checking for, so okay, I'll take that. Just open the door again and then check on my third hit. Hopefully I'll get a piece that I can clip for. Bug tree. No, I can't clip for this. I just need to go to the green room. That's fine. The clip out that I would be able to do is in the center of the red room, higher up, and you can just clip straight out of bounds and go to what we call the secret rooms very quickly. Since the painting warps that you saw me take towards the blue room, not all of the paintings just drop you off on the other side of the wall. Some of them teleport you to a completely different spot in the stage, which is part of what makes this stage very disorienting to run. So, yeah, it's weird. So, I could have used that clip to go to any of those rooms if I'd needed to, but didn't have the opportunity to do it. But 56 with a couple of deaths is still a decent time for that stage, so I'm not going to complain too much about that.
We have a donation for whenever we have the chance to read it.
I will explain these two bosses first and then get in with it, yeah. So King Boom Boo is a big barrier to people learning how to initially run this game. This boss is meant to be cycle based, but with precise movement you can get all 4 hits necessary on this boss in 1 cycle, which can save at least a couple of minutes. So we're just going to get that. And then after that we're going to have Sonic's boss Egg Golem, which is the same super bounce tech that we saw in Pyramid Cave, but the platforms are very narrow and the frame window for getting super bounces is very short. Like, it's one of the most technically demanding tricks you can do in the run. It's like a 5 frame window for each bounce. But do feel free to get in with that donation now.
Yeah, it's a donation from Nim. They donated £5. Yo, Draco, can always count on you for a good marathon showing off this game. I'm a bit late with the donation for Route 101, but good luck for the rest of this run. Show them how to do those bosses, and also the rest.
Thank you very much, Nim. I'll certainly try to do the bosses, because as I mentioned, Egg Golem is very technically demanding. Alright, that's 1. I'm going to go for 3 super bounces here. Alright, I'm not going to go for a super bounce. Actually, yes I am, because if I go for the regular hit, I would meet the wrong part of his movement cycle. Alright, I'll go for a normal hit here now. Okay, I'm landing in front of him, that's fine. One of the worst things that can happen on Egg Golem is that he does his spin attack, which is caused by being in the back half when he decides his next attack cycle. So, as I'm landing in the front, I'm not going to get the spin cycles, which is fine. And for the head smash hit, you simply bounce out of the way, and hopefully I'm going to be able to get my last hit as... Nope, keeps straight off, and I'm really struggling to bounce. I only got 1 super bounce, that's pretty bad. Tried to go for the greed bounce and didn't get it. So that was honestly a pretty bad Egg Golem, and there's a small, very tiny optimization I can try there. You can die in the sand and still finish the fight. It stops the in-game timer early. So you can save up to a full second on the in-game timer. It's also possible to die too quickly and actually legitimately die before you finish the fight. That is absolutely terrible when that happens. So Eternal Engine is Tails' last stage, and this is the big cycle-based stage. I'm going to try to meet a cycle halfway through the stage and then hit a major out-of-bounds skip. This is fine so far. I actually went slightly early on that hover jump without a visual cue, which I was going purely off timing for, and if I timed that wrong, that would have cost me severely. So, again, that probably saves 0.1 seconds, again, if that. Please. Please! Oh my god, the movement is weird. Okay, I am not going to meet the first cycle now, unless I have extremely good movement from here on out. I could try and go for the weight hop against my better judgment. I could try that, because that'll save about half a second, and if I mess it up it'll easily lose a few seconds. I'm wondering. I think I'm too far behind, I probably shouldn't go for it. So this will probably just be a standard second cycle. And anyway, if I met the first cycle, I bet I just get a second try clip out, which would be equivalent to getting second cycle anyway, so we'll just take it. So ideally, 109 check there. If I was on first cycle pace, I'd have nice turnaround there. I would have a 105 check or better. Like, with good movement, you'll get a 105 or a 104 check there. So this is the cycle that I was trying to meet. You can see that I'm getting it as it's coming up here. This is the second cycle, and this is the major out of bounds trick. So I've got a very precise position here, and I'm straight out of bounds. That is a lot more precise than it looks. I need to start in exactly the right place, run straight forward, jump at the correct position, and I need to also jump the correct amount of height. So all of those things will influence whether or not you clip out of bounds there. Most of the time, if you just go for that blindly, you'll just get jostled around in the corner and you won't actually clip out. The other method of getting that clip is to be close enough to the door that it opens, and then if you're in the correct spot when the door is opening, it will actually push you out of bounds. But I prefer to just use the positional method since I'm fairly consistent at it. And the goal ring is right on this matrix post. So, yeah, that's a stage. So 212 is a standard second cycle. If I'd gotten the first cycle, that would have been like a 202. So basically, each cycle that you miss is 10 seconds more or less in spare change. So as with Tails' final stage, this is going to be Knuckles' final stage. So this is going to be the end of the RNG in the run. And Meteor Herd is, unless you get a couple of extremely bad pieces, I don't think this is too bad for RNG variants. I hope I didn't jinx myself there and make myself get the worst second piece, which I will point out if I do get, on something strong. This could give me a bad second piece, but this piece is fairly close by, at the bottom here. Alright, don't do it. Between moon and stars. Okay, it's high up, but it's not terrible. What I didn't want to see was floating stone above a moon, which is right at the top of the stage, and then you need to go even higher. You need to just climb up a wall. You need to do about 10 seconds of additional climbing. But between the moon and stars is right after this rocket drops me off. With a good third piece, this can still be a very good stage time. What do we got? Dig a watch in the stars. This can be in a few different spots. Okay, not there. It's here. 41, that's a pretty good Meteor Herd time. So, for what I got, one good RNG stage out of the lot. And, like you can see, with Meteor Herd, it is pretty much pure RNG that dictates the time that you're going to get. With the other stages, there's a lot of movement tech, but because of the way that Meteor Herd is laid out, that you spend a lot of time either gliding or taking a rocket up or drill diving down, there's not a lot of movement tech in Meteor Herd. It is mostly just RNG for Meteor Herd once you know where all the piece positions are. So here's Knuckles' last boss fight, Rouge. I'm going to go for a trick by going for a right as I gain control without grabbing a ring, which could save up to a second. If I execute it right, I'm going to get a sub-15 fight. I didn't drill dive in time. I don't die on that fight very often, come on. And now that I've taken a restart, the time to gain control changes to 7.2. Alright, second try. So this is meant to be a very awkward fight where Rouge's AI is very erratic and is very difficult to hit, but as long as you remain airborne near her, she is actually very passive and more or less just stands there and lets you get free hits on her. The strat that a lot of runners use is to just repeatedly drill dive, which does work, but I think it's needlessly risky, so I don't personally go for it. So Crazy Gadget and Final Rush are the two final stages of the game, and they both have major skips. The Crazy Gadget skip is very technical, and the Final Rush skip is, it doesn't look impressive, but it's very easy to mess up, so I'll just explain it as I get to it. But for Crazy Gadget skip, I'm going to set gravity to the left once I get to the gravity room, and then I'm going to do a lot of weird stuff. I'll try and explain as I'm getting through. Nice miss. The rails in this game have amazing collision detection sometimes. That'll do. Not perfect, but it'll do. So I'm going to set gravity to the left, and I first need to get a very precise spin dash jump here. Alright, part 1, part 2. Get off the ceiling, thank you. Yeah, for the rest of the stage, gravity is facing towards the left. This is what it's supposed to look like. Believe it or not. And so I'm going to fall towards this back wall, and I need to bounce through this final wall. And now I need to hit a very precise spot on this back wall here, and I'll fall straight into the goal ring. If I miss, I die. And I got it. And as you can see from the pattern of the wall there isn't very much in terms of a visual cue. Like, once you get very familiar with where the goal ring is relative to the wall, you can use visual cues, but there's nothing plainly indicating this is where the goal ring is going to be. So being that the wall is just a solid pattern, that's very disorienting for new runners to learn where to fall. So 108, like, not counting the death, is a pretty good Crazy Gadget time. So casually, a lot of people really hate this boss fight and really struggle with the giant death laser that Eggman uses. We don't really care about it too much. It's pretty easy. Whoa, he's moving around a lot. Thankfully, this area that I'm in allows me to exploit his AI quite easily. Please hit him. Alright, I'm just going to snipe him. Get away. That was a pretty hairy fight, but he moved in a very awkward manner after the first hit. After the first hit, he's meant to just stand in place and do 5 shots, but he started moving off at a weird time, and the fight quickly got out of control from there, and I just had to damage control to make sure I didn't flat out die, since the laser will kill you in a couple of hits. So Sonic's final stage is appropriately named Final Rush. Lots of rails in this stage, followed by, again, a major skip. So you saw in Pyramid Cave where I used the gravity bounce to skip small parts of the stage. We're instead going to use a gravity bounce to skip the entire stage. Well, not a gravity bounce, but I'm just going to skew gravity regardless. And I'm watching the timer here to make sure I know when to turn. I'm going to need to turn at 35 on the clock. This angle is difficult to hold. I hit the kill plane early, damn it. I probably turned slightly too early there, so I'm going to pay extra attention to exactly when I'm going. Alright, I'm going to need to turn at 37. And this angle is pretty good. So the point of what I'm doing here is by skewing gravity to be almost horizontal, I can fall at an almost horizontal angle, and that gravity won't reset until I tilt upwards. And by doing that, I'm going around all of the kill planes in the stage. You can actually get just enough distance to go around all the kill planes and still be able to fall towards where the goal ring is. The timing for this is quite precise though, since if you take a very conservative fall time to make sure that you get around all the kill planes, you're falling further and further away from the goal ring, so you basically make the margin of error shorter depending on how long you fall. So the reason that I hit the kill plane the first time there was that I was going a little early to make sure that I wouldn't miss, and I just happened to turn a little too early. But still, we get into the goal ring, no problem, second try. And we just have the final boss of the run coming up, Shadow 2. Going to be going for a quick strat where we can just chain homing attacks to manipulate the way his AI works, since he'll always react to attempts to attack him by homing attacking himself. But there's a short period between when his homing attack runs out and when he lands on the ground where he'll be completely vulnerable, and I'm just going to chain 5 hits together. So time is coming up. Time is when I land the 5th hit on Shadow, so I'll count them out as I hit them. 1, 2, 3, 4, time. I kind of don't want to ask what my time was, because that was a bad run.
What do you think it was?
Was it at least sub 40?
It was 40:23.
Oh, that's bad. I'm sorry.
Well, as long as you had an okay time, as
It's...
long as you sort of enjoyed it.
I missed my estimate though, didn't I?
Only by 23 seconds.
Only by 23 seconds, yeah. I'll blame RNG. I had bad
Yeah,
RNG.
let's all blame
Yeah.
RNG. Curse you, RNG.
It was still a lot of fun though, and I hope people enjoyed it.
Well, yeah, I'm sure everyone in the audience sounded like they enjoyed it, so I can assume... And chat was going wild at some points, so yes, I can assume people enjoyed
By chat
it.
going wild, you mean people were saying Draco why when I was dying?
No comment. All you need to know is that they went wild.
Okay. I'll
But
take
no,
it.
It was enjoyable to watch at the very least. Now guys, in the stream, please don't leave if you can stick around, because in around 20 minutes we're going to be going live with a Digimon World Run by Kiyotora. So please stick around for that. It's an any % run on the PS2 and it's going to be great. In the meantime, we're going to be transitioning over for you to listen to some music. So please, let's transition to the music.